Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got 3 replays in the Eastern Alliance Era 2 Premium MBT, the Jaguar Black. Now if you do like the video as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the Jag Black. It is basically an upgraded version of a Type 59. It's got some applique armour on it and it's got this 105mm gun. As it was, you know, a Chinese/Cadillac company upgrade for the Type 59, for which was only a couple of prototypes built. And as a tank, it is a fairly average Eastern Alliance MBT. The gun handling on it is, well, it's the same gun that you get on the M60s, so it's pretty solid. The armour on it is hit and miss. It works well enough, but at times it also doesn't work. You know, it's one of those armours that is not auto-cannon, auto-pennable, which is great, and will bounce those quite easily. And you're also not an auto-pen where you're sitting there going, I am just pennable to everything. You will still ricochet shots here and there. You'll bounce nice amounts of shots that you sit there going, oh, nice! You know, that sort of thing. And you've got fantastic HE rounds as well, which is something that you really want to take advantage of because it really ups the damage potential of this vehicle. Because you go from 460 alpha to 570 with the HE. The HE is usable against so many vehicles, and it's just like a lot of the vehicles that have good HE. You need to use and abuse it to make the best out of it, to just absolutely wreck your opponents. And adding the fact that you're doing module damage and stuff like that with it as well, that's just even better. And the general mobility of the vehicle is not too bad either. It's pretty good. Like I say, it's just a fairly average tank in Era 2. It's not got really anything special about it, but it's not got anything truly bad about it either. Well, okay, maybe the gun depression isn't the best, but yeah, everything else generally about the vehicle isn't too bad. So with the Jag Black, you have a 63.63 km/h top speed. That's a satisfying number, but sure, that's because we're running the turbo. A 23.83 km/h reverse speed, 787.5 horsepower engine, which is 21.96 horsepower per ton ratio. And with great ground resistances that don't really hold the tank back like pretty much every vehicle in Cold War, you get to that top speed really easily, and it is a very, very mobile tank. You've got 47.63 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, which means that you do turn very, very quickly from left to right on the tracks, and with a turret rotation speed of 39.36 degrees a second, bear in mind that your turret traverse is a lot slower than the tracks, so do be careful of that in your Jag Black. You got 526 meters of view range, which is good enough to spot for yourself quite easily in Era 2. 0.53 accuracy during rotation, with a 1.72 accuracy during movement, which as a pair with helping out as much as humanly possible is pretty nice, and it means the aim circle doesn't bloom out massively when you turn the tank or the turret. And to add into that, you've got a 1.92 second aim time, which means that generally it doesn't take too long to get this gun aimed in either, and you can start farming up when you get into a position like you're seeing here very, very easily, as the gun also has 0.27 accuracy at 100 meters, which is very, very accurate. And it will hit most of the shots you want to hit. It's just occasionally, you know, RNGesus is a thing, and RNGesus will just go, yeah, you're going to miss now. Lol, why not? You have 7 degrees of gun depression on this Jaguar Black, which, like I say, actually isn't terrible. It's in that very, very average, mediocre range, 7 degrees of gun depression, which means you can use ridge lines like you're seeing here fairly easily, but at the same time, it can be a bit of a struggle depending on the ridgeline you pick, and it's not as good as having 8, 9, or 10, right? It's just that there's going to be a lot of ridgelines where you are going to struggle to get the gun down on this vehicle. It's just going to be about how you position yourself and how you manage to get the gun into the action depending on your positioning. You've got a 7.09 second reload on this 105mm gun, which is 3.8, nearly 3.9k DPM, which is really not bad at all for an Era 2 vehicle in this day and age, with 432 penetration on the standard APFS DS round, 450 pen on the heat rounds, and 230 pen on the HE rounds. That's why I say you really want to take advantage of those HE rounds. The 230 pen is enough to go through so many vehicles, and that's why we run the loaded shell exchanger, because it ups your DPM massively to use that. And the heat rounds you just never use. You've got 1,455 meters a second shell velocity on the standard APFS DS round, with 1,173 meters a second shell velocity on the heat rounds, and 850 meters a second on the HE, which means the HE does travel a lot slower than the APFS DS, so do be careful of that you will have to give a lot more lead at distance. But a lot of the time when you're using the HE rounds there, as we finish the game with the 1455 base XP, 7.6k damage, etc., really quite a nice game there for the Jaguar Black. But yeah, with the HE rounds, you're generally going to be using those at a lot closer ranges, at points where you know you're going to be able to pen the tanks, because there's a lot of lower plates, a lots of rear, and a lot of turrets that you can actually pen with the HE, and you just don't underestimate it, because let's say upping your damage to 570 is a massive bonus in terms of your DPM. And it is a very, very nice usable round, and it can actually swing the fight very, very easily if you use those HE rounds and get those shots in with that round. It really can, because, you know, before they know it, they're getting hit for most of their hit points really, really fast. And as it is a premium Era 2 MBT, you do have a 150% silver earn rate as well, which means this vehicle does make pretty nice silver. And since you're not really, well, you're not firing premium rounds at all, because you're not really going to be using the 450 pen heat rounds, as the APF SDS is enough, you do make very good silver. You also have a 70% premium vehicle XP earn rate, which is because it is a black vehicle, so it does have that heightened XP earn rate as well, which can be decent for it in helping to just up XP gains for stuff like, you know, crew XP and all that sort of stuff. And you do have a 110% crew XP earn rate as well, which means it's not too bad at actually crew training either. It's just a generally pretty decent earner. And let's say as a vehicle, it's just a pretty average Era 2 MBT. You're not going to do any better or any worse with this vehicle than other MBTs, you know? It's one of those. It's not exceptional, but if you were to pick it up, you're not going to have a bad time with it, you know? That's what, if you get what I'm trying to put out there. So, what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment to be able to get the stats that you've heard about in the old Jaguar Black Edition? Well, I run Born Leader, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Rapid Aim, Expert Gunner, Dynamic Driving, Radio Jamming, Clutch Braking, Track Mechanic, with the Advanced Loader, the Gun Stabilizer, the Loaded Shell Exchanger, and the Turbo. Turbo to be able to get that extra top speed up to 63 kilometers an hour, just help us be a bit faster getting up to that top speed as well. The Gun Stabilizer to be able to get the accuracy during rotation and movement down as low as possible in conjunction with the Snapshot and Run and Gun, so that this gun is filthily accurate whenever we need it to be. The Advanced Loader to naturally get the best out of the DPM. The Loaded Shell Exchanger, because like I say, I switch between AP, FSDS and the HE rounds all the time. It's a very, very useful round to have, and so being able to just switch at will is a very, very flexible thing for this vehicle. Run Clutch Braking and Rapid Aim to make the Truck Traverse and the Track Traverse better, because it's just nice to be able to do that. Makes it feel less lethargic in that regard as well, which is pretty good. Expert Gunner to be able to get the chance of damaging modules by 6% up, and the decreasing the effect of distance on my APF SDS as well. Radio Jamming just to keep the tank getting unspotted that little bit faster. That can be pretty handy. You could definitely switch that out for Armour Angling though, very, very easily indeed. Dynamic Driving is the same. You could switch that out for something like Armour Angling, but we do just go very aggressive and ram things at times. We just play for the memes in this vehicle sometimes with the ramming, which is why we run the Dynamic Driving. And we run Born Leader and Track Mechanic because generally we want to make everything about the tank better, and Track Mechanic because we do, like I say, get stuck in, and it's nice to be able to get the tracks back on faster if we've already burnt our repair kit. As this M103A2 is finding out there, as we perma-track that guy pretty much. If he'd been running Track Mechanic, we wouldn't have been able to do that. And that's why I do like to run Track Mechanic, to get out of that sort of scenario that the poor M103A2 got stuck in. But like I said, there's plenty of different ways to kit out the vehicle. You could quite easily drop something like the Turbo, for example, and run the armor hardening on this vehicle to be able to run that in conjunction with armor angling, because that way you'll reduce the amount of damage going to the tank by 10%. That's always a valid option. There's plenty of different ways to set it up. That's just how I like to be able to play the vehicle. So this second replay here, we're up to 7.2k damage with 2 kills, a bit of assistance damage. And we've had a pretty nice game here on the Jag Black on Fisherman's Bay. And you've seen the benefits of the tank, some of the weaknesses as well. You know, we struggle a bit at times to get the gun depression. We missed a couple of shots because we were struggling to get the gun down. But generally, the accuracy of the gun is really, really nice. You manage to use those HESH rounds. You can up your damage very, very easily, as you see big shots hitting people. And let's say when you're shooting lower plates and through the upper plates of some of the vehicles, like the Turan 6, for example, or you're shooting AMX-30B lower plates, all that good stuff, you tend to set them on fire as well, because they have fuel tanks in the front, so the module damage will end up setting that on fire. And again, you keep your damage ticking up to higher levels, which is always nice to be able to do. So they've got 7 tanks left. The WZ-122-4 is just running the other way. So we're going to go pressure the other guys that are in the corner. We load the HESH round there for the BMP, hitting him for 580, which, again, ups the damage. I would say with the loaded shell exchanger, it's a very, very nice thing to have on the tank, because as you've seen against the BMP, we managed to up the damage massively, and again, we're always increasing that chance of doing module damage. But with the loaded shell exchanger, it does take a fair bit of knowledge to be able to get the most out of that, because you have to know exactly where you're going to be shooting people with the HE to be able to do the damage. Also, RNG just hates me as that shot went low on the 30B24 rad. But yeah, it's knowing where to pen people with that HE, but it's also knowing when to use it, because as you can see, I'm constantly switching all the time, because my brain is always going, oh, I can pen that with HE, oh, I can pen that with HE. Oh no, and then you'll see it when people turn sideways, and I go, oh, I might not actually be able to pen that with HE anymore, let's just load the APFS DS, and we put the shot through them instead of the APFS DS, because we're more likely to get the pen in. You see that all the time, where I've got the HE loaded against something that might go in, and as soon as they turn sideways, I go straight back to the APFS DS. So it's all about the knowledge of where and when you can use that HE round to get the best out of it. As we finish the game there with a good total of silver, nearly 500k, the ace tank of the high caliber, 1797 base XP with the 9.1k damage and the 2k assist. Really nice game there with the Jaguar Black edition. And like I say, you're seeing how much silver this thing does make. It makes very, very good silver indeed with the vehicle. And that's using 2 times silver boosters, naturally. But, yeah, making nearly 500k silver in a match, you're never going to sniff at that, ever. So we're on to the third replay here. And this third replay is on this map, which is, yeah. It's a map. It's a map. It's got great... Vineyards! Yes! It's Vineyards, and we're not going to be making wine. Nope, no we're not. We're going to be making a tank graveyard. Or at least we hope we're going to be. That's the dream, right, when you start a game like this. So, on this map, what I wanted to do was be the aggressive force for my team. I didn't go to A6. Why did I not go to A6? Because in Cold War Era 2 and Era 3, it's just a death sentence for the team that spawns in our spawn. Because what happens is exactly what you're seeing here. Our team goes and sits at J9. And that's that. They just go and sit there. And you'll have quite a few people push along the JK line, exactly like we're doing. Which means that your team completely loses the northern flank. They just completely ignore it, completely leave it. Which then, if you go and fight at A6, A7, you're screwed. You're dead. So what I like to do is push very aggressively along the JK line and try and cut around them. And you do go behind them quite easily. You do have to be careful, though, of people deciding to cap you, because people can cap you out very, very easily if they go and try and sit at D0. You just have to be careful of that, basically. So as you can see, none of their team have come to the JK line, because that also happens quite often. Oh, that's the Sod's Law moment there with the shot on the T92. But hey-ho, hey-ho. Yeah. Basically, this happens all the time in Vineyards Era 2 and Era 3. In that their team don't bother with the JK line whatsoever. They just charge up the AB line, down the 9-0. And our team goes and sits and camps at J9. And a couple of people push to exactly what we've done. So it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Go and push the JK line aggressively and then push towards their cap and try and wrap around. So here you're seeing the HE rounds are a valuable, valuable thing. The M55S, which was the new Season Pass vehicle, has very, very good armor against things like HE and heat. Unless you hit the lower plate. The lower plate is a very exposed plate, which means HE can go through it quite easily. If you're firing an ATGM at that vehicle as well, aim for the lower plate. If you hit the upper plate or the turret or anything like that, you're not going to pen it. But if you hit the lower plate like that, you'll go through it pretty easily, and that's what we do. And again, you're also getting the chance of setting them on fire, because that's where the fuel tanks are. So we just aim up the shell there for the M55S, and we hit the floor, because we can't quite tell what the ridgeline is, which is something that we'll be able to change as we set the guy on fire with the HE round there. Which is something that will change from the next patch, because something they announced on Tuesday, I think it was, is that there's going to be a new reticle, which is the reticle that is on PC, or the new outline, not reticle, I keep calling it a reticle. It's a new outline, and it's an outline that's on PC, which is basically where, when you aim at someone, you can see what part of their tank is actually covered by a building, or by, well, just by an obstacle, or by a ridgeline, that sort of thing, as it'll be a solid colour, and the bit that's not a solid colour is actually the bit of the tank you can see. It's a outline that people have had on PC for a very, very long time. It's something that we've asked for, and I've asked for as well, quite a lot, and thankfully we're finally getting it, and it's a beautiful quality of life change. And in a scenario like you saw me shooting at the M55S there, where I couldn't quite tell where the ridgeline was, I will be able to from the next patch and from the next season, which is very nice. So we're charging in. Aggression. Aggression is the key here. We went straight in for the Stingray, rammed him, finished him off, got the HE rounds loaded for Mr. Ignis Pagatio, keeping myself frontally on, because this Ignis Pagatio will struggle to pen me in the front. So we're just trying to keep it front on to the Ignis. He ends up managing to bounce a couple of shots as well as panning us, and we fire the last HE round there through the back of him for 5.99. We got a bit unfortunate with the one before it, which didn't pen, but hey-ho. Now we're in the key position behind their lines to be able to shoot them in the back as they try to push our campers. Now, they've got rid of most of our campers by now, but they're also now putting themselves in a very exposed position for us to be able to shoot at them, which is glorious. And we shall farm the potatoes like a humble potato farmer does, and we shall enjoy it. Because you have to enjoy it. When you get this chance to farm up, never turn it down. Always make sure of your aim and get those shots flying in. And like I say, this gun is a very accurate gun, and it will hit the majority of the time as long as you aim it correctly. Which, visible rage. I moaned at RNGesus for that one in the game. But realistically, I aimed a little bit too far to the right, and it was a bit of a poor shot. But there you go. So we're just trying to pick up the kill on the Leopard 1. That was, RNGesus said yes. Thank you for the 5th kill of the game, Mr. RNGesus. I'll take that. We're up to 5 kills with 8.8k damage, nearly 8.9k damage. You aim your shots. Aim, as you saw, that shell did fly really high, but that's because we fired without aiming. And there's one tank left on the enemy team. It is the Warden. So we're going to go try and get the 6th kill of the game here on Mr. Warden. If I can try and get there before the team evaporate him, try and pick up that kill. I want my top gun. So we see the chance. We go, yes, lock on fire. Oh, we hit the train. And the reason we tried that quickly is because I thought he'd blow up. And we actually had the time to get round the corner, and we could have fired and nicked the kill there. But hey-ho. Finished the game with 5 kills, 8.8k damage, ace tanker, the high caliber, with 1838 base XP. Really nice game there for the Jaguar Black Edition, which, like I say, it's a fairly average Eastern Light 02 MBT. It's pretty good at everything, but it's not exceptional. It's just a pretty decent tank. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!